Brian Leonhardt here with the Leonhardt team at Coldwell Banker Realty. Today I have on a special guest of ours, one of our leading sales agents this year, Mrs. Mercedes Gilson. So Mercedes, you started in real estate, got out, got back in. What advice would you give to somebody that maybe was an agent and it didn't work out and then is going back into it, or would consider it again?
There's a couple things. One, the confidence thing is huge. So you really have to believe in yourself. When I jumped into this and I knew, I was like, it's this or nothing. Like, there's no other trying this again. So mentally, I put myself in a space where it's like, there isn't another option. We're going to make this work. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but we're going to do this. And some of the stuff, like we've talked about, mindset things, made a huge difference that first year with me getting going. Listening to podcasts or audiobooks. I did a lot of audiobooks my first year. YouTube, TED Talks. Anything to really put me in a good headspace. And I have a half hour between when I drop our youngest off at daycare and when I get into the office. That was really like my time, as long as I didn't have any like pressing phone calls to make for clients or with other agents. I use that time regularly to put myself in that headspace to be ready to go when I got here.
I think one of the most important things is there's two things we can control, right? It's your attitude and your effort. I think that mindset fits so much into your attitude, right? If you think that the housing market is crumbling and nobody's ever going to buy a house, right? And that's just how you feel every day when you come to the office, you're never going to want to help anybody. Mm-hmm. It's going to feel, the other person on the other end of the phone that you're talking with is going to feel that, right? And I think that's something that I think is really important, is making sure you keep a great attitude in this business, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, being in sales as well, it is an emotional roller coaster and it is difficult. And if you can't keep a good attitude, it'll just bleed over into everything that you do, every conversation you have, and you'll also take it outside of the workplace too. And I think that's a really important thing that we try to emphasize, is trying to keep that steady mindset and that steady attitude to go, is always thinking positive and always having an optimistic outlook on whatever situation you're in, and that you can solve that problem, right? Or you can weather the storm that you're in, right? Or that the real estate market is in, and I think that's something that needs to be a practice every day for every salesperson, I would say, or just, I think everyone, is just to go, can you put yourself into a good position or a good mood where you have a great attitude about your day and about your week and about what you do? I think that helps every bit of your life, and it's really ultimately just your choice, and it's a hard choice to make.
Right.
But
besides the fact, along with attitude, you have to love this job. Like, if you're jumping into this, you watch those TikToks, you're like, I can make $100K a year. Heck yeah, let's do this. Like, you're not going to make it.
No,
you have to love doing this job, because when there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes that anyone realizes. You get into this and those complicated, stressful issues happen. People are upset. There's money that's got to be spent that people don't want to spend in certain cases. There's a lot of emotions flying.
Ton.
That money is like really looking questionable then if you don't love your job.
Yeah, and I think it's, if you don't love it, if you're not okay with the problems that come up or the amount of stress that you will feel, right, from your clients, because realize what they're being put into is a very stressful process. It 100% is. Buying a house is just, it's very stressful, and it has a lot of money on the line and livelihoods. It's your family moving to a different house or a different city, and a problem that comes up that ruins some things, right? You have to be able to protect them from that stress as best as you can, but you can't protect yourself from, you have to take some of it, really. Yeah. And you feel that 100%. And that sometimes, a lot of people are like, I want nothing to do with that, right? A lot of people want nothing to do with that. And regardless of how much money you can make in this business, is the fact that is it is hard, and it is not for everyone. It is not as easy as they make it look. That
No.
is for sure.
And I mean, good agents, I mean, we take on as much stress as we
Yes.
can so our clients don't have to.
Yes.
We won't worry you about an issue unless you have to be worried about it.
Yes. And I think that that's a hard thing to do, right? And sometimes, right? Like I said, I think a lot of people wouldn't take the amount of money you can make to be able to also have to take that. It's sometimes the cost isn't worth the reward for a lot of people. And I think that that's the important thing to understand. If you think it's easy, or you saw the TikTok where somebody's making a couple $100,000 doing this or whatever, right? It's like, do you know what it took for them to get there? Do you know the problems that they've ran into,
Yeah.
I think that's the thing you don't see when you see all of those flashy cars and all of that, of all of the success that somebody has after all of the work and problems and stress they put into it, or maybe the years of struggle that they had until they became successful, right? Take Mercedes' story, right? 2 years of barely making ends meet, right? Until now, right? Where it's finally worked off, And I think that that's the thing, is like, is anybody willing to wait 2 years until they're finally good at something, right? Or wait 2 years until they finally make a good amount of money? And most people will hit the easy button, go, well, I'm making enough right now, and this works for me, right? And I don't want to take a step back and wait 2 years for something that might not ever be there. And that's what happens when you get into real estate, is the fact of, like, you're not guaranteed anything. You're not guaranteed being good at this ever, right? And it may take you 2 years, it may take you 3. Who knows? Maybe it takes you 5. But most people quit before that time happens. I think that's the biggest reason why, if you know this, and I don't know exactly what the stat is, but the amount of realtors that get their license and are no longer realtors in 5 years, it's like 80% or 90%.
It's like 90%.
90% of realtors don't have their license for more than 5 years.
And yeah, I say it's even, I mean, the highest is even like the between year 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And just the amount of people that drop off, and after the first like continuing education cycle, that just their license lapses right away.
Yeah. I remember I meet with a lot of realtors, and I remember one person I had met with, and I'd seen them again like a year later, and like, oh, real estate, right? Are you still doing it? And he's like, no, I sold one house. It was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, and I was like, yeah, it is, It's like, oh, doing something else now. It's like, yeah, it's difficult, and it takes a long time to be successful in this. And I think if you look at the most successful agents, they've been doing it for a very long time. Nobody can just pick up this business and be super successful in their first year. You can be moderately successful if you have some skill or some experience, like maybe in sales or in housing or something like that, but it takes more than that. You can't just walk in and go, I'm gonna sell the most at this brokerage in the first year. It is nearly impossible. I have yet to see it, but I think that if you do all the right things for long enough and learn enough and continue to build your skill, yeah, you can. Most people can be successful in this if they can handle it, the stress of it, and they can continue to get better at it, and they know how to get better and keep learning new ways to help their clients. And I think that that's something that may take a few years. That may take 4 years, 5 years, until you finally gotten to the point where you know all of the best ways to help somebody, and I think that that's a thing that people miss when they get their real estate license right away. They'll grab their real estate license, go, I'll sell to a couple of family and friends, I'll just open the door, write the contract, and it'll be easy. People will call me, right? Okay. The biggest misconception in real estate is if you get your license, people will call you, right? I was a former professional football player. A lot of people knew who I was. I was a realtor in the same town that I grew up in, right? Nobody called me. I got my license. I sent out letters to everybody I knew. I posted it on Facebook. Nobody called me. No one. I think it was just luckily my brother-in-law used me that year. Maybe it was like 2 people that I knew myself actually used me. And I had a bunch of friends that bought with somebody else, right? And I think it's like, you assume that once you get your license that people just call you. It's like they have no reason to call you. There's 15 of you, and you just got your license, and so many people do this as a part-time thing, you know, they're more likely to go find somebody else.
Or it's like a phase. You try and, you know, people that try like the 3-tier marketing stuff, that, you know, it's like on the same line. They're like, well, we don't even know if you're any good yet. Are you going to keep doing this?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Hey, I already knew 5 other people that do this. You know, why would I call you, you know, or, and I think that's the thing. It takes a lot more work than just getting your license and printing out some business cards and handing them out and thinking somebody's going to call me. They don't. And I'll tell you, 7 years later, do you know how many people call me? I don't know, just a couple. I mean, a few, you know what I mean? Not 50, that's for sure. There's not 50 people a year calling me and going, hey, Brian, list my house. I want to buy one, you know, like that. You want to know the only people that do call me for the most part are my past clients. It's not everybody else that, you know, and I think that's the thing that people wish it was, you know. I'll get my license and all of my family and friends will call me. No, they won't. They already know a realtor. They probably know a good one too. Right. You have to be way better than the person that they used, actually, you know, for you to get their business. Or you're really close to them. You know, this is your mom, dad, brother, or sister. Maybe then they'll be like, all right, I guess I'll use you, you know. Yep. But also, they'll probably begrudgingly use you because you literally will not have the skill to be able to help them like the other realtor they probably do know. And I think that's the tough part of putting a family member into that guilty position. I have that. I have a lot of guilt when a family member chooses me, you know, to be their realtor. And I tell them 100%, it goes, this is not family Christmas. I am your realtor. You are my boss. When things go wrong, you have to tell me. When you don't like what I'm doing, you have to be able to bring it up. I am a professional. I will dress differently. We will talk differently, and you can yell at me, right? You do not need to be nice to me, right? If I'm not doing a good job, you need to fire me. And I think that needs to be something, because I think it's tough when a family member or a friend goes into a professional relationship when it comes to that, when it comes to helping them buy a home, when it comes to listing their home. When there are problems that do come up, they don't want to ruin that relationship, so they won't bring them up, and then you won't know what they are. Or they'll have wished they would have hired somebody else, and or maybe they would have been better off hiring somebody else, and that's the last thing I want, right? And then I think that a lot of times when I get in those situations, like, if you want to meet with another realtor, please do. Like, bring another person in just to make sure, unless you really do trust me, right? But if you have any hesitation at all, bring somebody else in.
Please interview others.
Yes, bring somebody else in so you can at least know or make sure that I actually am the right fit for you.